What's up, my George Formans? It's time for Spawn issue number 35. Let's go. Twitch returns back to the precinct because his injuries are mostly healed by this point, and they throw a whole party for him. Sam says it wasn't his idea and it was all their idea, but then Twitch sees a ton of fucking jelly-filled donuts and he said, "You had no input in that?" And Sam says, "I had a little input in that." Chief Banks starts talking shit to Sam, but Sam isn't fazed by this because he knows he has some dangerous info on Chief Banks. Sam knows that Chief Banks is guilty, but he doesn't have enough evidence to prove him guilty, so he wants to actually get Chief Banks to say it himself. Cog talks about Spawn being the X Factor in Hell's plan. This is because his suit has transformed super early. It was only supposed to transform 7 years from now. Not this fucking early. So Spawn's asking if he's some super Spawn, and Cog says he doesn't really know because no one has ever transformed this early. He just says to use your powers to your advantage, not theirs. Then Spawn calls him crazy, and Cog says, "Oh yeah," and touches Spawn's face. Spawn then discovers the truth that Jason Wynn ordered him to be killed. Cog asks Spawn if he's okay, and Spawn says fine. And then Cog says, "I think it's time you begun your mission." So yeah, Spawn's gonna start hunting down Jason Wynn. Back at Jason Wynn's headquarters, he tells Terry Fitzgerald that he wants his security to never be compromised again, and Terry says, "Yes, sir." Chief Banks continues to call Jason Wynn, freaking out about the situation, but Jason Wynn is kind of just getting annoyed about this. He tells him to deal with his detective and that he's just a thorn in his side, a diversion for the true danger. So yeah, Jason Wynn says to deal with that, and Chief Banks says he will right away, because if he doesn't, he knows Jason Wynn's gonna have him killed. Cyan for the first time has said grandma, and Wanda Blake is calling Grandma Blake about her situation. Then Grandma Blake says, "Well, we've been getting a pension and I was worried I'd have to sell the house. And the reason why she's getting this money is because of Jason Wynn. He's manipulating Terry's family." Chief Banks wants to deal with this situation immediately, so he's heading to Spawn's alleys. Now remember, Spawn told Sam not to let any of the police go into his alleys, but Sam never delivered the message to Chief Banks about this, so they have to run to this fucking alley. Chief Banks and the rest of the police are interrogating the homeless people. They search through the alleys, then eventually they come across Spawn's throne. He says they think he's some kind of king. Are they twisted? And Spawn says no, just thankful. Then Chief Banks freaks out because Spawn's directly behind him, and Spawn tells him that his men aren't dead. Luckily. So then he says, "Are you this suicidal? Did you not read the file?" Obviously, Chief Banks knows nothing about what Spawn's talking about because Sam never gave him the fucking file. So Chief Banks is kind of freaking out as Spawn's choking him because he heard Sam talk about Billy Kincaid. Chief Banks whimpers to Spawn saying that it was Wynn, so Spawn lets him go knowing that it was Wynn. And Sam and Twitch didn't exactly hear what Chief Banks said, so it doesn't exactly make him guilty. Then Sam puts a gun to Spawn's head, but as we both know, human man-made weapons cannot hurt Spawn, and Spawn even mentions this. Sam says, "Yeah, but if you have no eyes, then you can't really attack us," so Spawn just disarms Sam and Twitch by hitting their guns with his chains and leaves the area. Wanda feels like her and Terry keep hitting walls with this investigation on Jason Wynn. They know he's lying, but that makes it even creepier because he's being kind to Terry, so they find it kinda weird. Wanda also mentions an anonymous donation to the children's hospital that was more than she could ever even imagine. As Terry continues to play with Cyan, Cyan winds up kicking him in the balls, causing him to curl up into a ball on the ground, and Wanda says, "Cyan, now you're not gonna have any brothers or sisters," and Terry says, "Very funny." Spawn enters Jason Wynn's offices, telling him that he's ready to even the score. It's time that Spawn killed him. Spawn lifts Jason up with one hand, threatening him, and then Jason Wynn puts his arm out, so Spawn grabs it and breaks it off like a twig. Then a ton of Jason Wynn's agents enter the room with a ton of futuristic gear, and Terry is among them. Spawn feels like he's been betrayed, and Terry tells him that that's not exactly what it is, but yeah. That wraps up Spawn issue number 35. Like the video if you enjoyed the video. If you didn't enjoy the video, well, I'm gonna keep going, you shitbag. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.